What's going on, you guys? Teofimo Lopez returns, but he returns with a plethora of excuses. It seemed like it's been a really common thing in boxing today that was almost taboo years ago to A, speak about what happens in camp, aka sparring, right? What happens in sparring stays in sparring. And B, coming up with excuses when you lost a fight fair and square. It seems like there's a plethora of excuses. It seems like there's a ton of sparring rumor stories. But nonetheless, hit that like button for your boy Bushido, right? Teofimo Lopez comes out with excuses as to why he lost against George Kambosos. And yeah, Mark Kriegel had a sit down with Teofimo Lopez. And Mark Kriegel asked the question, asked to what happened with Teofimo Lopez. And he says this: you fought Kambosos with a condition called pneumonia typhoidum. I'm sorry if I butchered the word. It's like a 30-letter word, which is air in your chest cavity and neck. The doctor said you're lucky to be alive. And then Teofimo Lopez Jr. says, indeed I am. Every doctor that sees my report says, how the hell did you survive that? Kriegel says, should your son have been in the ring? Senior says, no, not at all. But going into that fight, if you remember the build up to the fight, Teofimo Lopez was doing everything but seeming like he was focused on Kambosos. He was getting hit in the stomach by 350-pound bodybuilders. He was in hookah bars, smoking, turning up. I mean, Teofimo Lopez was doing skits and shows and flipping around and doing everything other than paying attention to George Kambosos. Now, after the fight happened, after some time off, now he's reflecting, and now he's reflecting on nothing but excuses, right? Nothing but excuses as to why he lost that fight. When the guy that beat him came all the way from Australia, a no-hoper. Like, nobody really gave him a chance in that fight. He pulled off the upset. And now Teofimo Lopez is upset and coming out with excuses, right? And then Mark Kriegel says this: the likely cause was a tear in your esophagus when you were rehydrating. Teofimo Jr. says, I'm drinking water, and a couple of minutes later, my tone of voice changed. So I started touching my neck. The next thing I know, it's so swollen that you could tell something happened. And Senior says, I told him, let's go to the emergency room and check it out. He decided not to do that. Now, I remember the build up to that fight. Teofimo Lopez Sr. was all caught up into the moment. He was all caught up into the hype, the moment. It seemed like you couldn't tell him nothing. And listening to him in the corner, I didn't hear any advice that he gave his son, that his son could have used to really get out of that situation. Teofimo Lopez was in there figuring it out on his own, right? And then Teo Jr. says, the thing is that the amount of postponements, the amount of pressure, then Kriegel says, you put your life in jeopardy by going into the ring. And Teofimo Jr. says, yeah, I made a choice. But the thing is, the postponements was because of Teofimo Lopez, if I'm not mistaken. He went from ESPN. He went to Triller. You know, he thought grass was going to be greener on the other side with Triller. He was starting to promote Triller. He essentially slammed the door on ESPN Top Rank's face, right? I remember all this stuff. We remember all this stuff, right? He thought the fight was going to be on Triller. He was getting his lucrative payday. Man, that fight was supposed to happen 6 months before it actually happened, right? And George Kambosos was getting strung along. Yeah, we remember everything. He was getting strung along, not knowing when he was going to fight. Postpone. The postponements really should have benefited Teofimo Lopez if he was really having these issues. But he was so caught up into the moment, he wasn't even paying attention to this underlying issue that he may have had, right? And then Mark Kriegel says, should it be in your coaches or your coach's choice? Junior says, if a fighter is going to go out, a fighter is going to go out. That's what the decision is. Senior says, I should have never let him fight. I should have taken control over the situation more. I let other people dictate things that shouldn't have happened. Well, Teofimo Lopez Sr., that's what you should have done. This is your son. This isn't just any fighter. This is your son. And if you knew something was going on, you should have took control over the situation, right? It's kind of hard to believe, though, right? They showed Teofimo after the fight with oxygen mask on and all that. But before the fight, he was in hookah bars smoking. So, like, boxing fans scratching their head as to what's really going on. And then, not to mention a few of the postponements of the fight, boxing fans feel, you know, it's a lot of things was really skeptical leading up into that fight. I remember everything that happened going into that fight because we was waiting for it for a long time. And then Kriegel says, wasn't it your responsibility to say we aren't fighting? Senior says, I did tell him. I told him even inside the ring. But Kriegel says, but isn't it your responsibility to overrule him? As a trainer, isn't your responsibility? And look, I don't think there was nothing that Sear could have really said that his son would have listened at that time. I mean, Teofimo Lopez was on his high horse, and his dad was too. So, really, looking back, you really couldn't tell neither one of those guys shit at that time. They was on top of the world. They was the best fighters in the world. They had the it factor. Nobody could stop them. And then Senior says he would have never talked to me, meaning that he wouldn't have talked to him if he had pulled him out of that fight. Teofimo would never have talked to him again. And then Junior says, so by the 7th round, I look up at the lights and I say to God, I need your help here because I'm about to do something that I'm not built to do, and that's quit. 3 rounds later, I put that little bitch on his knees. Wow. Talking about George Kambosos. And we remember how Teofimo got the knockdown later on in the fight, but it simply just wasn't enough. Kambosos was just really hitting Teofimo Lopez seemingly at will at a certain point in that fight. And Kriegel says, was it a mistake to fight? Lopez Jr. says, it was the greatest choice that I ever decided to do in my life. Kriegel says, you almost died. Jr. says, good, I needed that. Sometimes a man does need that to test themselves, to see where they at. And now that he overcame this adversity, not winning a fight or anything like that, but overcame this underlying issue, this esophagitis, whatever it's called, he fought with that. Now he should be mentally tougher from here on out because he knows what he's made of. He's built. He went to that dark place, right? He went to that dark place in this fight. So now we're going to see what Teofimo Lopez does at 140 pounds. Then he says, you needed to almost die? Teofimo Jr. says, to realize how dark and bad people really are, because I won that fight, regardless of the matter. The referee thought so. He raised my hand before they called out Kambosos. As a fighter, you have to beat the champion. He didn't do enough to beat the champion. Then Kriegel says, who beat you then? Junior says, the only person that beat me is myself. And that's it. This is my sport. I have something that these other fighters don't have. That's it factor. And that's why God has blessed me to come back and do what I do best. Entertain. End quote. That's what Teofimo Lopez had to say. He said Kambosos didn't beat him. He said he beat himself. Right? He called him a little bitch and did all this, that, and the third, right? And yeah, Kambosos caught wind of this. And Kambosos had this to say. Looked great to me an hour before I beat your ass and sent you to ICU. Take it like a man, T.O., instead of the 1,500 excuses. No excuses for me when Haney beat me. Take it like a man and bounce back and stop being a bitch. P.S. Good luck in a few weeks against your journeyman. End quote. That's what Kambosos had to say in regards to Teofimo Lopez coming out here downplaying Kambosos' victory over him. But yeah, you guys, it seemed like it's been a really common thing in boxing today to come out with poor excuses and not to really fully give your opponent credit from beating you. And then also all these sparring session stories and stuff is starting to become revealed. And it seemed like things that were a code in boxing seem to have been broken in the modern era of boxing. But Teofimo Lopez, man, he's coming back against Pedro Campa August 13th. Pedro Campa is 34-1-1 with 23 knockouts. So we're going to see how Teofimo Lopez looks at 140 pounds. He just came out with a plethora of excuses to totally dismiss and downplay the victory that George Kambosos obtained over him from coming all the way from Australia with no hope, right? And beat him. It's not really a good look for Teofimo Lopez, but this is a common thing in boxing. I guess these excuses is valid. Whatever the case may be, tell me what you guys think. Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.